Your procrastination is not a consequence of lack of discipline or motivation, but more so you fear being yourself because this character has not been tested. You have no idea how the public would react to it. Therefore, you conform. We as individuals, we have our uniqueness, those peculiarities that creates the divergence between you and everyone in society. But you do not lean into this uniqueness because it indeed diverges you from society. And humans see isolation as a curse. So once you're isolated, in fact, you transmute into loneliness. Loneliness is characterized in society as a character flaw. It's most likely you're unfriendly. And if you twist the Bible to suit your narrative, it says famously that he who wants friend should show himself friendly. So when you don't have friends, you're considered unfriendly. And it's most likely you see it as a cause, it's something you want to fix. Whereas it's isolation that giftings are birthed, talents are birthed. I've discussed extensively the difference between isolation and loneliness. You can do well to check that out. I'll try as much as possible to link it at the end of this video. However, those peculiarities, those uniqueness, your divergence from society is where the true you lies. And as I stated previously, you fear the idea. You do not know how the public would react to this character. It's never been tested. You have no idea what the outcome looks like. In fact, in my own life, when I discovered my uniqueness, it's the habits that will create that successful individual caused me to be disenfranchised from society. So normal things no longer appeal to me. The things I wanted to do, discuss about, is foreign to the average individual. It's most likely my peers gravitate towards drugs, women, hedonism, things of that sort. But when I'm talking about building $1 billion conglomerate or company that operates around the world, or how to express value in a certain way, you're discussing women, you're discussing the various sex positions. Are you fucking mad? Your mates are changing the world, using the internet and technology to do amazing things, and you want to bring rubbish to my door. For those of you who rely on heroes as a precursor to what you can achieve, so for instance, to the degree of which they are extreme is directly proportional to your extremity, because you're waiting for them to carve a path to express a unique aspect of themselves. Watch how the public reacts, then proceeds. Unfortunately, you are never going to do something that way because you'd always be capped. The world rewards individuals based on their uniqueness. The world rewards unique individuals, not copycats. You need to take the risk. They didn't know how it will play out. Neither did you. So you have to take risk and express yourself. One of the ways you understand you fall under this category of individuals I just described. Once a man, an actor, or someone you truly respect expresses a foreign character trait, it resonates. I can do this. I had this thought. I wanted to do something similar. I'm not talking about ideas necessarily, but a character trait, a style of communication, a confident statement. I can do this as well. This is something I wanted to say. It's to your detriment if you live life that way, because you will always be capped. The unique aspect that is privy to you, that would act as the clarion call to announce you to the universe, would forever be locked in because you're waiting for someone to give you permission to express. The fear of being yourself. And unfortunately, you would feel the sting in the short term. Friendship is built upon shared habits. Once you no longer sustain the habits that can maintain your current friends, it causes them to leave. It's a byproduct. It has nothing to do with love or hate or whether they did this to you. No, it's as objective as the law of gravity. And you're not developed enough to attract new friends. So that's one of the problems with conformity. One of the problems with conformity is people do not really love you for who you are, but for who you portray to be. And for as long as you're not brave enough to show that unique aspect of yourself, to take that risk, to show the public who you are, and wait for their reaction. In fact, it's a very stupid way to live, to hinge your self-worth on the way people react. It's stupid. In fact, if that was the philosophy I sustained, I wouldn't be here, because I learned the stock market and I'm a very, very profitable trader. I'm $5,000 up year to date. Most people would not make $5,000 over the stretch of a year. And this is what? Second month of the year. So I'm $5,000 up year to date. How did I start trading stocks? I sat down on the floor. I had no purpose. I had no drive. I had no idea how it works. I don't come from a family who understands the market. In fact, we used to believe Elon, for instance, had a bank account with a debit card containing 700 and something billion dollars. That's how destitute of financial wisdom we were. Yet, one person rose and was able to persist, sat down. I remember in a community with no electricity, no network, and I sat and I looked at the book, and although I've read it 100 times, I'll read it 20 more times because that's the best move to make. So sometimes you just ask yourself, what is the best move to make? What is the best move? What can I do? The small things leads to the big things. Start where you stand. More tools will be added along the line. If you never start, you'll never find those tools because they are not relinquished at the initial stages of the journey. But somewhere along the line, you begin to pick them up. Very interestingly today, to validate my point on the small things leads to the big things, and small habits shapes your entire life. Very recently today, we went to observe XYZ, and during the discussion, we saw a group of college students dancing. Later, we were told the theater, I hope I get this correct, theater arts students. I said to my colleague, how does one come to the school to study theater art, to study how to act? If acting is something you want to do, go to stage, have real experiences, start as an extra. Of course, nobody would hire an untested individual to star a role, at least in most cases. But you can start as an extra, start building connection, get hands-on experience, as opposed to wait till you're certified. And it's very, very difficult. It's becoming increasingly difficult to star a predominant role in Hollywood because the producers are comfortable relying on known characters who will not just improve the quality of the film, but increase the advertisements. Not to take into account these hungry agents who would pester and bombard the producers and directors with phone calls begging for their client to audition. What chance do you stand? A certificate? Is that what you think? Are you an idiot? Start. Start. The same thing with my stock journey. I had no capital. I had nowhere to get capital from. This concept that one day I would have $5,000 spare was incomprehensible to my mind. That this idea you would have, or you engage in an activity that produces $5,000 was foreign. But I started. I feel like I'm shuttling between two stories. So to complete the first one, when we saw those individuals, I made a comment. It's a waste of time to dance and wait for a certificate when you can get hands-on experience. During the discussion with my colleague, a student, some young guy, decided it was very wise to debate me on a subject. Of which I decimated him, of course, and his philosophy. But the point I'm trying to highlight with this story, the third colleague could not contribute to that intellectual discussion. As we are conversing, occasionally my second would impute, he would speak, I would let him speak, I'll allow him to finish his point. He made good points, not closely to that of mine, but he said something. He at least contributed to the discourse. Whereas the third guy was completely isolated as touching the discourse. He could not utter one word. He had not the intellectual experience, neither the capability to pull it off. Therefore, he was silent. It's the same thing with me. Had I not paid the price to become an intelligent man, to engage in the various qualities that made for this character, I too would be like him. And that's the problem I have with you humans. You saunter through life without watching yourself, assessing daily scenarios. That young man would go home and not sit and analyze as a professional that my peers were having intellectual conversation and I could not contribute. This is a problem. I need to fix it. No, he probably forgets as though nothing happened. And that's why you'll be poor. Because you're not sentient enough to be conscious as you go about your day. You would never be able to identify opportunities. Everything in my life, I take stock. I take stock of every interaction, not as a consequence of insecurity, but to learn, as a learning process. I met XYZ person today. Why wasn't I composed? What happened? Okay, this girl, I treat her a certain way. This one, I treat somehow. Why? What is the difference? Girl A is probably prettier and you're trying to get down to a degree. Girl B, you have nothing to lose. As a consequence, you are confident. What if I switch the interaction and I pretend? Do I still get the same outcome? That's how you learn. By taking a heuristic approach towards life. Nothing is guaranteed, my friend. Nothing. The only thing that's guaranteed is death. And once you sustain that mindset of death, there are a lot of actions you will desist from. There are things you will do and not do. Then you begin to sit. Am I not opening this business because of what Uncle Todd would say? Why am I doing this for people who do not care about me in 10 to 15 years, or for people who will not be around? in 100 years to come. You adopt a generational thinking. For the sake of time, we'll end it here. And as always, my friends, a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.